over the period of time from just slightly before when I started to practice to today, the number of administrators in healthcare or in hospital administration has outpaced physicians by a factor of 3,200 to 1. So I personally have, and I've served on a hospital board for quite a number of years, and I've never had a CEO come to the meeting and say, you know what, we're going to have to eliminate some of our administrative staff. That's never happened. I'm just not going to say anymore and let you talk about that if you can.
Well, without mentioning the name of a system, I'm aware of two very high-ranking executives, both of whom performed very well, whose positions were recently eliminated from the healthcare system. And I think in part that is a function of the economics of COVID and how that has affected hospitals, particularly with the reprieve on elective cases that were set aside, appropriately so, for a significant amount of time. But your point is just astounding, Randy, the ratio of administrators to physicians being added in healthcare. As I think about that, I'm not surprised because, yes, big complex organizations get heavily burdened with the cost of too many administrators. So I think the pendulum via COVID is going to swing, and you're probably going to see fewer administrators now with a broader span of control and having to do more. One thing I would like to point out, my view and my experience is that when the focus is on quality and safety, then if you're delivering a high quality, safe service or product, if you will, to patients, then it's not likely going to be as expensive. That the better safety, better quality should correlate with lower cost.
You would think.
I mean, that's been my experience. And thankfully, as I left St. Anne's, we were leapfrog grade A for several years. And they continue now, they arrived at and are staying in the top 5% of hospitals nationally. So I can't speak to how they're doing financially now.
Can I tell you a quick story, and I'll just kind of throw this out there. You know, a few years ago, I was in a general staff meeting, and the guys, I've told the story before, but it was a general staff meeting or a biannual meeting, and everybody's there, have a dinner, get together, and everybody's, you know, typical catching up with each other. And they brought in people from corporate. Not once during that entire meeting did they ever mention patient care. And I looked around the room, and every head of every physician in that room was down, whether looking at their phones or just ignoring, just not hearing the message. To me, that was a real important moment for me, because that kind of encapsulated everything that's going on, where we feel like we are commodities again. We feel like the administration is not hearing us. We're here to be worker bees to somehow support somebody's bottom line. And I guess my point is, can you recall at some point, when did this all start to shift, would you say? Can you kind of focus in on what incident or what episode or whatever it was, whether it's the genesis of HMOs and all this stuff? I'm trying to pinpoint, because administrators and physicians generally, when I was starting out, we all pretty well got along. We're all working, like you're saying, working towards the same goals. And it's somewhere along that it started to become adversarial. You know, we were just, you have to produce your RVUs and this and that, especially the docs who were employed now by the hospital system or the hospital itself, guys who'd given up their private practices. You know, again, long-winded question, maybe it wasn't direct, but, you know, can you kind of pinpoint, when did things start to change?
Well, you may have already answered that question, Des, because I think that the phenomenon of employed physicians has really contributed to the view or the perspective that doctors are commodities, and it makes my heart hurt just to say that. I mean, it really does. And because I think that if you break the spirit of a physician who has been in private practice and so proud of that practice, and then you put them into an employment model and treat them like, I hate the words lower level, but I'm going to use that, lower level worker bee, then that's what you're going to get. And,
well, we unfortunately have created a perfect economic storm that almost couldn't lead to anything other than that. And that is physicians graduate from their training with a level of debt that is just unimaginable to me. They can't really afford to invest in their own business. And then we have not hospitals, but hospital systems and HMOs and the alphabet soup of organizations that need people to provide the service. And it puts the physicians into the position of being employee. And poor Rhonda has heard me say this about a gazillion times. The moment a physician is employed by anybody other than the patient's going to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, if I'll marry on to that today, on Randy's podcast, as a matter of fact, we recently had an interview with a young physician, Dr. Leah Houston, and that's not a plug, although I would say, yeah, please go listen to the interview. But Janet, being a guest on our podcast, one of the things that we do is we take quotes from our interview and we share that with folks on social media, and we're part of some physician groups. And I'll tell you, the one that we posted today was on that topic, that very topic. She made a quote that it's a conflict of interest, that physicians take a Hippocratic oath, and to be employed, you can't serve two masters, basically, is what she was saying.
Well stated.
And physicians have to make a choice. They need to take care of the patient, or they need to take care of the business. That's really kind of where they've been placed. And they face that struggle every day just to go do what it is that they had a heartfelt desire to do, and why they went into this profession was to take care of patients. But now even that's tainted because of the structure that they have to walk into. So this posting that we did today, my phone has not stopped pinging. It is getting response because that hit a nerve. This is a conflict of interest. That phrase, I can tell you, that's what hit the nerve. Thank you so much for joining us for the discussion today. If you would like to learn more about our guest, head on over to our Patreon page, where you can access exclusive content, including the full segment of our show. Never want to miss an Inside the Doctor's Lounge clip? Be sure to click the subscribe button to our MD Coaches YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate suggestions for future show topics. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. And finally, special thanks to Ryan Jones, who created and performs our theme music for the show.